Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about 10 amazing things why I love to live in the United States. Living the American dream. My goodness, I want to tell you the American dream is alive, it's doing great, and it's waiting for you to come and get it. Growing up in Romania, it was very different. I was happy. I was happy with my life. I think most of us are happy with the childhood that we have. We don't know anything else better. And we think that whatever we live and have around us is the norm. We think everybody else lives the same way. So I thought that as well, and everything was nice until I saw the American movies. Yes, Hollywood just opened up my eyes to this whole new world I did not know it existed, with palm trees and beautiful mansions and green grass all year round. So yeah, that was pretty impressive. And I must say, in my teens, when you're very susceptible to the things you see, don't really distinguish reality from fiction very well, I thought that everybody lived like that, so of course I wanted it. So very early on, I knew I wanted to live here in the States. Like back 25 years ago, I knew no matter what will happen, I'm going to make it, I'm going to come here. And it's interesting because nobody else around me thought that way, and that's okay. You can be different and you can have your own dreams. From an immigrant perspective, I think the American dream is still a goal that everybody would like to achieve, depending what country you're coming from and what the situation is. If that's something you want to do, I definitely encourage you. There's a lot of work and sacrifice behind it, emotionally, physically. There are going to be a lot of obstacles, but it's worth it. At the end, it's worth it. Opportunities, my goodness. Here, you have the opportunity to do whatever it is you want to do. You can come and start as a waiter and work your way up all the way to six-figure, salary or more if you wanted to, within your lifetime. Not only within your lifetime, but within years. When I first came to the United States, it was in Florida, where I lived for over 10 years. Now, I wasn't in Miami and I wasn't in Orlando. I was kind of in between in a smaller city. So when it was time to get jobs, looking for a hub with plenty of job opportunities was very important for us. And I highly recommend you look at that as your number one criteria if you want to move. Having opportunities just changes everything, because now you can turn down jobs. Now you can negotiate better. Now you can get a raise. Now you can ask for a lot more because you have options. Cultural diversity, yes, this is such a big one because, as I mentioned in Florida, I pretty much went from seeing black and white to seeing the rainbow. And that was big because I was all of a sudden surrounded by all these people that came from other countries as well. And very quickly I learned that my narrow view of the world had to be widened, had to become more tolerant, more accepting of other cultures. And that's because I wasn't the only one that was different. I wasn't the only one with an accent. Everybody else had an accent. Most people did. In fact, local Americans are very rare there. Everybody comes from the South, from South America, from the islands, from Europe, from Asia, from all kinds of different countries that you didn't pay attention to. So what I learned quickly was that as important as I thought my values are, my neighbor and the person next to me has their own values. They're completely different, and they believe in them just as strongly as I believe in mine. So that has taught me so much about being tolerant, being more open-minded, being very careful with the words that I use, the things that I say, and really learn how to listen. Credit. Oh, this is a big one. I didn't grow up with credit. So when I was exposed to it, credit was very unknown and a bit scary because, credit cards are scary. Spending money you don't have can be dangerous, but there are benefits to it, such as a mortgage. Growing up, I always saw, of course, we give priority to owning versus renting, but the only way you were able to own something is if your parents passed it on to you. Now, that's great, but what are you going to do when you're starting out in your 20s, for example? And you don't want to get married, perhaps, and to start that together. So I always looked at living in a beautiful home as something that I had to save for my whole life, and then eventually I'll get it and live with it. But here in the States, you actually get to put a down payment, a deposit, and then the bank will loan you the money, the rest of the money, so you can purchase the home, live in it, and then make payments every month. That to me is still till today pretty amazing, I think, and a great opportunity to really live your dream in person and not have to wait for years and decades until you can tangibly live in a better, safer environment. The cost of living, you have to look at that. You have to look at the maintenance of your life. The average salary that we have here in the States versus the cost of living. And now this is specifically to Florida. I don't know how it is in other states. I do realize that it might be different, and like California is insanely expensive. The salary that I have versus how much it costs to live in Florida, for example, is very affordable. And I never had to worry about not being able to afford food or shelter or utilities, any of those things. And I do realize that it's a problem for a lot of people. But I'm simply comparing this to where I grew up, where people were really struggling. So not having that here is a great benefit. And I'm going to continue on food because I'm a foodie. I love to cook. I love to try new different kinds of foods. And this was one of the great things about Florida. I got to meet different kinds of people and eat their food, which was so tasty. And I recommend you to experience and experiment with different cultures, traditional dishes. And I ate Brazilian food and Cuban food and Mexican food and Canadian food, and I loved all of them. And it just goes to show that when you try new things, from my experience at least, they've been positive. The majority have been positive. And I'm not saying I liked everything right away, but you get to train yourself. You get to train your body. And just so you know, if you try 3 spoons every single time you have something new, by the 10th attempt, you teach your body to like that food. So I'm going to list a couple of foods that I love right now, and I'm so glad that I got to discover living here. Number 1 will be seafood. Oh my goodness. I don't eat it all day, every day, but it is just marvelous. I'm a big fruit eater, and the fact that I get to enjoy them all year round is amazing. I mean, I come from 4 seasons where we had strawberries for 2 weeks in spring. Here, I get to eat them all year round. You have that diversity, and I got to eat pomegranate and pineapple whenever I wanted to, and I feel like I live in paradise here from that perspective. Restaurants, so many different restaurants from different cultures. If I enumerated all the foods that I like, well, they're matching with all the restaurants, and I want to say within an hour's range, I get to have Asian food and Brazilian food and Italian food all within, my zip code, and it's pretty amazing. You don't have to be stuck with the food that you know. You don't even have to eat burgers and hot dogs all day. You can just try, get on your phone and the apps and Google Maps and check on your restaurants around you. Moving away from food, I talked about how affordable the cost of living is, but also, I want to talk about the cost of just products. The fact that I have available products from Korea in my Sephora store, and pretty much international range of products are available at all times to me. They're also, I want to say, affordable, right? Clothes are affordable, shoes are affordable. Electronics are affordable. Everything you want to purchase, you can actually buy. Now I have a lot of abundance. So this comes with other, I want to say, challenges, because you need to learn to manage that abundance and be more purposeful and intentional in purchases. Having the availability and affordability to buy all the products you want whenever you want to is providing a choice. And I love that. And speaking about products, my next point is returns. I mentioned it before. Returns are such a new concept to me because I cannot understand why stores would accept them. But really, if you think about how much more shopping it creates simply because you have the option to return it. I think on the long run, it's worth it for them. They just look at it as a loss, and the gain from it versus the loss is much higher. So as a consumer, being able to return things, especially now that we're doing so much online shopping, it's pretty awesome. I love it, and I feel very confident that I can return something. Of course, you need to be sensible about it and not to, overdo it. Entertainment. Ooh, this is a good one. So here in the States, entertainment is huge. I also live next to a major city because of that. It is so important to me. This is another thing that I saw on TV, the shows. I love theater. I love shows. Theater is pretty big in Europe, actually, but here they just take it to another level. You have the Broadway shows, you have Cirque du Soleil, you have ice, Disney on Ice, for example, or the ice shows. Blue Man's Group. In Orlando, you have all the theme parks, roller coasters, everything within the range, within driving distance, really. And the last point that I wanted to make is about community, a really strong sense of community. And I'm very proud of being in a country where people care about each other. I didn't realize how much support you can receive from others and how helpful and impactful support from your community can be in your own life. I've experienced it several times, and I really like this sense of helping one another and not being selfish and only think about your own little plate. So I'm very proud to live here and to contribute and share that sense of togetherness.